I'm from Burkina Faso. One would wonder why bringing somebody from Burkina to chair the Rwanda Atomic Energy Board. But that's the Pan-Africanism and the leadership and vision that President Kagame is sharing with you all.
Something strange just happened in Africa. Without warning, two of its most unlikely nations, Rwanda and Burkina Faso, signed a deal so powerful that it could change the entire continent's future. But why are these two countries suddenly talking about atomic energy? Who's helping them? And what are they planning? Let's find out. In July 2025, in what seemed like an ordinary diplomatic bulletin, something extraordinary emerged from Kigali and Ouagadougou. Two African governments, one led by a military revolutionary and the other by a long-time technocratic reformer, simultaneously revealed a joint commitment to launch a nuclear energy alliance. The announcement was sparse in detail but rich in implication. Rwanda and Burkina Faso are officially collaborating to develop and deploy nuclear energy on African soil, not in the distant future, but starting now. This is not just paperwork, it's already moving. Burkina Faso has quietly inaugurated its National Atomic Energy Agency, a full state institution tasked with steering the country's civilian nuclear ambitions. Not as a side project or an experimental wing, but as a central organ of national energy policy. In parallel, Rwanda confirmed its intention to begin construction of a small modular reactor SMR by 2030, a miniature atomic system that runs on next-generation high-assay, low-enriched uranium HALEU, the same tech being championed by countries like the US and Canada. What makes this headline explosive isn't just the technology, it's the symbolism. Two landlocked, often underestimated African nations have jumped ahead of the global nuclear queue. No massive donor ceremony, no dependence on a Western-led development bank. They simply moved. And behind that movement is something far more strategic than energy, a reshuffling of geopolitical identity. While media coverage was almost non-existent in mainstream Western outlets, regional platforms erupted. Pan-African social media lit up with disbelief and pride. Was this real? Could Africa produce nuclear power on its terms? And more importantly, why now? The timing of this development is no coincidence. The global energy map is fracturing. As Europe doubles down on gas in the wake of the Ukraine war and the West escalates trade tensions with China, energy access has become a weapon of leverage. Africa, long used as a battleground for resource extraction and greenwashing, is finally turning the tables. And Kagame and Traoré are the first to draw the line. By the way, we have launched merch that honors the African leaders who are taking a stand for Africa. Check them out. To show you also stand with loyal sons of Africa, no matter where you are. What Rwanda and Burkina Faso have done is not just break a taboo. They've rewritten the script. Africa has often been told that nuclear energy is too risky, too expensive, and too advanced for its institutions to handle. But both governments are rejecting that narrative. They are not asking for charity or permission. They are writing contracts, training personnel, and defining their safety protocols. And the partnerships? They're already set in motion. Rwanda signed a powerful memorandum of understanding with Nano-Nuclear Energy, a US-based company developing micro-reactors, compact transportable energy generators ideal for off-grid communities and industrial hubs. The agreement includes not only reactor tech, but also knowledge sharing, technical education, and long-term investment planning. This isn't a handout, it's a stake in the future. Burkina Faso, on the other hand, is working with Russia's Rosatom, the world's most aggressive nuclear exporter. Rosatom has begun conducting site assessments in Burkina Faso, offering scholarships to young engineers, and preparing joint feasibility studies for training centers and research facilities. According to sources close to the administration, plans are underway to draft national legislation for reactor operation within the next year. Yet, despite all this activity, major world powers have remained oddly quiet. There's been no congratulatory press release from the IAEA, no detailed coverage by Western media, no diplomatic praise from Europe or the US. The silence is as political as the alliance itself. What does it mean when Africa moves independently, especially with nuclear energy, and no one in Washington, London, or Paris claps? This isn't just about reactors and uranium. It's about control, about who sets the terms of progress, about whether Africa will continue to follow or finally lead. And now that the shockwave has rippled through the continent, the question is no longer whether Africa can go nuclear. It's this: what exactly are Rwanda and Burkina Faso planning behind the scenes, and how far are they willing to go? To understand this, we must first abandon the notion that nuclear energy is reserved for the rich and developed. Rwanda and Burkina Faso have one thing their larger, more bureaucratic neighbors often lack: political will with velocity. Their governments are fast, focused, and unafraid of shaking off external expectations. They do not carry the weight of sluggish parliaments, bloated ministries, or post-colonial dependence dressed up as diplomacy. They are lean, ambitious, and driven by a survival instinct to secure energy without strings attached. Let's pause for a second to say a big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. For Rwanda, the nuclear turn is a logical extension of its national development doctrine. Since Kagame took power, Rwanda has been obsessed with order, efficiency, and self-reliance. It was the first African country to ban plastic bags, one of the first to adopt drone delivery systems, and is widely considered the cleanest and safest urban hub on the continent. Kigali runs on long-term planning, not donor dependency. Its energy policy reflects this same ethos. For years, the Rwandan government has quietly studied atomic technologies, dispatched delegations to IAEA conferences, and benchmarked SMR designs being rolled out in Canada, Argentina, and South Korea. Now, with global support fractured and energy markets volatile, Kagame has decided it's time to stop studying and start building. Burkina Faso's path is radically different, but no less compelling. Under Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the country has undergone a seismic political shift. Traoré did not take office through traditional electoral means. He rose to power through revolution. His administration has cut ties with former colonial rulers, restructured defense forces, and repositioned Burkina Faso as a state determined to reclaim its autonomy in every sector, including energy. The pivot to nuclear must be read as an act of economic emancipation. For Traoré, dependence on foreign oil, volatile regional grids, or externally funded solar projects is just another form of colonialism. By establishing a national atomic agency and drafting new energy laws, he's attempting to do what past governments only imagined: create an energy strategy that answers to no one but the Burkinabe people. But what truly binds Rwanda and Burkina Faso together in this nuclear venture is not ideology or even technology. It's urgency. Both nations know that the traditional path to electrification, slow donor-funded expansion of hydro, solar, and diesel grids is too little, too late. Their populations are young, growing, and increasingly urbanized. Power cuts mean stalled factories, halted data centers, uncooled hospitals, and rising unrest. In this context, nuclear power is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. Critics often point to the high cost and long timelines of nuclear projects, but that misses the deeper point. What Kagame and Traoré are investing in is not just kilowatt hours, it's credibility. The credibility of an African nation that can master complex systems. The credibility to engage in global markets as peers, not pawns. And the credibility to chart their course without permission from Paris, Washington, or Beijing. Moreover, by joining forces, they are mitigating risk. Rwanda's logistical sophistication and bureaucratic discipline complement Burkina Faso's raw political will and natural resource leverage. Rwanda may have the reactors first, but Burkina Faso brings uranium deposits and regional clout in West Africa. Together, they can pressure multilateral institutions to take Africa's nuclear aspirations seriously, while building a model of cooperation that sidesteps the failures of older continental frameworks. The formation of this alliance signals a new era where national development is no longer dictated by colonial-era borders or outdated expectations. These two countries are rewriting what it means to be small in global politics. Because when your power grid runs on atoms instead of charity, you're not small anymore. And the world is only just beginning to notice. But what exactly are the blueprints? Who's financing this? And how are they training Africans to run reactors when many don't even have steady electricity today? If Rwanda and Burkina Faso are holding the steering wheel of Africa's nuclear drive, it's worth asking, who's building the engine? No country develops atomic energy in a vacuum. From uranium supply chains to reactor designs, international collaboration is not optional. It's a requirement. But unlike past development projects where Africa was often handed blueprints drawn in foreign boardrooms, this time something is different. The partnerships behind this nuclear leap are strategically chosen, ideologically diverse, and unusually quiet. Let's start with Rwanda. Known for its tight diplomatic choreography, Kigali has chosen a rather unexpected ally for its nuclear venture, Nano-Nuclear Energy, a US-based startup that specializes in microreactors and small modular systems. This isn't General Electric or Westinghouse, the legacy giants of American atomic power. It's a new generation firm, agile and ambitious, just like Rwanda itself. The deal goes beyond reactor delivery. It includes collaboration on academic curriculum development, safety training, and public awareness campaigns. Engineers from Rwanda are already being trained to design, operate, and troubleshoot microreactors, devices small enough to power an industrial park, but potent enough to transform energy access in rural regions. What makes this especially intriguing is the geopolitical context. Rwanda has historically walked a fine line between East and West, receiving investment from China while maintaining close ties with the United States and Europe. Partnering with an American company in a field as sensitive as nuclear energy sends a subtle message: Rwanda is choosing technology partners, not political masters. But swing west to Burkina Faso, and the picture takes a dramatic turn. Traoré's government has turned to Rosatom, Russia's nuclear titan. Rosatom is more than just a vendor. It is a geopolitical tool, used by the Kremlin to extend influence from Hungary to Egypt to Venezuela. In Burkina Faso, however, the relationship is being framed not as allegiance, but as leverage. Russia brings what no Western institution currently offers: immediate training, turnkey research partnerships, and minimal political conditionality. Burkinabe engineering students are already being placed in Russian universities. Drafts for nuclear research institutes are circulating among the highest levels of Traoré's cabinet. Unlike the West's cautious risk assessments, Russia is saying, let's start building. This East-West divergence is not a contradiction, it's a deliberate strategy. By anchoring themselves between US-linked innovation and Russian atomic experience, Rwanda and Burkina Faso are de-risking their nuclear plans. If one source of technology becomes inaccessible due to sanctions or politics, they have alternatives. It's the kind of hedging that used to be reserved for larger powers like India or Brazil. Now, two African nations are using the same playbook, with no apologies. But what about the global institutions usually tasked with managing nuclear development? Here, the silence is striking. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, which oversees nuclear safety and compliance, has issued no major statements on either project. The World Bank, notorious for excluding nuclear energy from its financing models, has not made any noise. Western media coverage has been minimal, treating the announcements as niche news rather than the tectonic shift they are. Why? Perhaps it's because these projects were not requested. They were not born in New York or Geneva. They were not the product of development frameworks or aid compacts. They emerged from sovereign planning, closed-door agreements, and bold domestic decisions. That makes them harder to control, and even harder to dismiss. This is not to say everything is frictionless. Some Western embassies have expressed private concern over safety protocols, regional oversight, and the potential for political misuse. But there is no evidence, none, that these nations are pursuing anything other than civilian energy. Both governments have insisted on transparency, signing cooperation frameworks that involve public updates, university partnerships, and adherence to global non-proliferation norms. The difference this time is tone. Africa is not explaining itself. It is building what it believes is necessary and selecting who gets to help. And so, as foreign powers whisper their concerns or scramble to get involved, one thing is becoming clear. The question is no longer whether African nations are ready for nuclear partnerships. It's whether the rest of the world is ready to accept an Africa that chooses its allies, shapes its future, and builds without asking. But even with partners in place, there's one missing piece: the people who will run it all. Who are the future African nuclear scientists? Where are they being trained? And what kind of mindset is required to manage something so powerful? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. These questions are no longer theoretical. In both Rwanda and Burkina Faso, the gears are turning to produce a new class of African experts. Not just nuclear engineers, but reactor operators, radiological safety officers, policy architects, cybersecurity analysts, and energy economists. The ambition is not to rent foreign consultants for the next decade. The ambition is to own the future, brain by brain. Rwanda has made its strategy startlingly clear. Even before its small modular reactor SMR breaks ground, it has begun integrating nuclear science into its academic architecture. Several Rwandan universities, including the University of Rwanda and the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences, are introducing interdisciplinary courses in nuclear physics, atomic modeling, and materials science. But this isn't just theoretical classroom work. Students are being fast-tracked into fieldwork through Rwanda's partnerships with countries like Hungary, Canada, and South Korea, where they are gaining hands-on experience with real-world reactors, simulation labs, and advanced containment systems. There's also a broader cultural shift underway. For years, nuclear science was framed as something distant, too elite, too foreign, too risky. That narrative is now being actively dismantled. Rwanda's Atomic Energy Board has launched public workshops, career roadshows, and science fairs across the country to demystify atomic energy. In a groundbreaking campaign, they even enlisted Rwandan artists and filmmakers to create accessible media explaining how SMRs work and why they're safe. The message is simple but revolutionary. Nuclear is not foreign. Nuclear is Rwandan. But if Rwanda is building its scientific future through institutional calm and academic rigor, Burkina Faso is doing it through fire, the kind that comes from revolution, disruption, and radical urgency. Under Traoré's leadership, the very idea of scientific education has taken on a nationalist tone. The government has identified energy independence as not just an economic issue, but a cultural one. In speeches, Traoré has framed the pursuit of nuclear science as a second liberation, not from colonial armies this time, but from colonial assumptions that Africa cannot master complexity. To translate that rhetoric into action, Burkina Faso is creating what it calls a nuclear cadre program, a nationwide initiative to identify high-potential students, some as young as 14, and place them on a government-sponsored trajectory through science-focused high schools, university scholarships, and international placements. Russian, Indian, and Egyptian universities have already signed on to receive these students, with training tracks specifically tailored to Burkina Faso's planned nuclear ecosystem. A National Institute for Atomic Sciences is currently being designed in collaboration with Rosatom and will be headquartered in Ouagadougou. If completed, it will be the first such facility in West Africa. But perhaps the most radical move of all is how Burkina Faso is making this education political. Public television now airs weekly programs about nuclear science, often featuring local scientists, religious leaders, and community elders discussing not just the mechanics, but the philosophy of energy. What does it mean to generate your power? What kind of discipline does nuclear energy demand of people? These questions are not confined to policy rooms. They are being asked in mosques, schools, and markets. The unifying thread between the two nations is clarity. Nuclear energy is a human system. Without the minds to run it, it's nothing but a steel shell. With the right mindset, it becomes a continent's heartbeat, and both governments know they cannot import that heartbeat. It must be grown at home, spoken in local languages, shaped by local ethics, and carried with local pride. What emerges from this convergence is more than a workforce. It is a generation trained not to copy, but to create. A generation that will design reactors, write safety codes, argue energy policy in global forums, and perhaps one day sell African-made technology to the world. Still, even with trained scientists and international support, This nuclear dream cannot remain confined to two countries. There is a larger vision unfolding quietly, one that involves the entire continent. The question now is, can this revolution become a union? Rwanda and Burkina Faso have done more than ignite atomic ambitions. They have planted the seed of something far larger, a vision not just of two nations going nuclear, but of an entire continent connected by shared power, shared knowledge, and shared destiny. What started as a bilateral agreement now hints at a continental shift, one with the potential to turn Africa from a fragmented patchwork of energy poverty into a unified block of atomic self-reliance. That idea, once unthinkable, is now being whispered in the corridors of the African Union. Discussions are underway for a long-term framework that would enable nuclear cooperation between multiple African countries, far beyond simple knowledge sharing. This isn't about grand declarations or symbolic meetings, it's about hard integration. Interoperable energy grids, joint financing for infrastructure, shared research facilities, and standardized reactor licensing laws. If successful, this could become the most advanced scientific collaboration in African history, an African atomic commons. The final question isn't whether Africa can go nuclear. It's whether the world is ready for an Africa that already is. So, who's stopping Africa now? Will the West try to shut it down? Let us know in the comment section who flipped the switch. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious Blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.